This is a New York story. This is a story from my neck of the woods. Kathy Hochul is announcing that to combat inflation, New York Governor Kathy Hochul is sending $300 to $500 checks to residents. Yes, that's right. Let's take a look at this plan.
In my budget next month, they will send you a check to buy your groceries for a month or whatever you want to spend it on. And if you're an individual earning up to $150,000 a year, it's $300. What does that look like?
See, what does that look like? Wow, looks like a check for $300.
Just make sure to put the white people in the back. I want the black people right in front of me.
Right.
Okay, because we want to send a message.
How about that for individuals?
New York State government, not
Now,
racist anymore.
If you're filing jointly and you have a family, you need a little more, right?
I love
Families
this.
are expensive.
Families are expensive. Okay, I love this. I love this part of the plan here.
More, right? Families are expensive. How about this?
You get a car. You get a car.
$500.
$500.
$500.
So $300 for an individual. Now, if you're a family, you need a little more. So we're going to give you $500. Okay, $500, that's less for having a family. My wife and I are married filing jointly, so we'll get $500. If we were just unmarried domestic partners with children, we'd each get $300, which would equal $600. So you're actually giving families less than the individual. Like if you want to sweeten the deal for families, say, hey, we're going to add $200 per child. Then you may have something. If you are an individual, we're giving you $300. If you're a family of four, we're giving you $500. Only $200 more. You'd be better off. I'd be better off divorcing my wife and then taking the $300 each. We'd come out $100 richer and then remarrying afterwards. So that's the stupidity of that.
Plus, you get gifts.
Yes, plus you get new wedding gifts.
Cuisinart.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We can get a new coffee
bowls.
maker when we get remarried. That's true.
Yeah.
Spice rack. Yeah, update all our kitchenware. Yeah, it's looking like a good idea. Plus, we get the extra $100 cash. Yeah, you get more if you're a family.
How about this?
How about this?
$500. $500
Show them what they've won.
for families earning less than $300,000, because I know life in New York City is expensive and your salaries may sound nice, but they don't go very far.
No, they really don't. So $500 should do it.
What a political
$500.
She's not at all. You watch this and you say, Kathy Hochul is not at all the Kamala Harris of New York State who just kind of fell into the job or anything. She's a real political talent.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's exactly what she is. She is the Kamala Harris of New York State. She, was given the job after Cuomo had to resign. She barely won re-election in a blue state. She only won by, I think, 4 or 5 points against Lee Zeldin, a guy who is the new EPA chief, so he's not going to challenge her. Looks like a guy named Mike Lawler, who's the new congressman, the new Republican congressman from the Hudson Valley, who actually unseated Sean Patrick Maloney in 2022, is looking to challenge her. So she is in political trouble here. No one is safe. New York Democrats fret over 2026 governor's race. A week after the presidential election, newly re-elected Representative Mike Lawler was already looking 2 years into the future in an ex-post about a business leaving Western New York. The only way we can change things for the better in our state is by changing governors, he wrote. We must make that happen in 2026. Lawler hasn't hidden the fact that he has ambitions for higher office. In May, he joked that he would be governor in a couple of years in a video recorded for the annual Legislative Correspondence Association show, a satirical performance by reporters in Albany that features rebuttals by leaders of both parties. Oh, I have to see if I can score some tickets to that next year. Didn't know such an event existed.
Nor I.
Conventional wisdom suggests that the party in power suffers during the midterms. Republicans will control all three branches of the federal government come January. New York Democrats have obviously denounced Donald Trump's victory, but historical evidence indicates his presidency should help them, making their 2026 candidates safer than under a Harris administration. But after a weak performance by Governor Kathy Hochul in 2022 and an overperformance by Trump across the state last week, some Democrats and their allies aren't too confident about conventional wisdom. Okay, I misspoke then. It was a red wave year in 2022. I was thinking of 2018, so I got that wrong. I apologize. No one is safe, said Kevin Elkins, political director of the New York City District Council of Carpenters. He said that he sees a pathway for Republicans to unseat Hochul in 2026. Manny Pastrich, president of the powerful 32BJ Union. That sounds like a union everybody should join. Yeah. Sounds even the most right to work motherfuckers get behind the 32BJ Union. What's the complaint about?
We've had some of our newer members asking about the holes between the bathroom stalls.
Yeah, right. Yes.
All I can say is you'll find out, guys. You'll find out.
That's union only.
Union only. Nobody else can stick
Nobody
their
else.
Johnson
Per
in
diem,
those
you
holes.
use the private bathrooms. Per diem, you use the porta potties. Yes. It's for 32BJ members only.
That was a special clause we negotiated back in 1933.
Yeah, right.
Still going. We have one girl who's actually been working those holes since then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
We tell her, hey, retire, but she likes it. She likes it.
Hands off our glory holes. That's their signage when they do a picket. Manny Pastrich, president of the powerful 32BJ Union that has historically supported Democratic candidates for governor, offered a similar assessment. I think people should be nervous, yeah, he told City and State. Since the 2022 election, the governor's job approval and favorability have tanked, hitting record lows in poll after poll with minimal observable bounce back so far. Although Democrats maintained control of both the state Senate and the Assembly this year, the party did lose its one-seat supermajority in the state Senate, a fact that Republicans celebrated. And Trump picked up ground across the state, including in Latino communities in New York City that have historically been Democratic strongholds. Harris won the state by the smallest Democratic margin in decades, while Trump flipped parts of counties like Nassau that haven't supported a Republican since Ronald Reagan. The GOP have a very good shot to win the governor's office in 2026, said one Democratic consultant. Tuesday's results show that centrist Democrats and unaffiliated voters on Long Island and in the Hudson Valley are open to supporting a challenger to Governor Hochul, and those votes will be critical to any 2026 election. I agree with that assessment. I think Hochul is extremely vulnerable in 2026, yes. Even though that figures to be a year favoring the Democrats. She came very close to losing in 2022. Her favorability ratings are horrible, 34%, mid-30s, just absolutely miserable. Trump has made a lot of inroads with a lot of traditionally Democratic constituents. And as you can see, her big plan for combating inflation, a $300 one-time check to individuals, $500 to families, that reads as desperation. That reads as she knows she's in trouble and she's trying to strengthen her political hands, not just ahead of the general election in 2026, but against challengers from within her own party. So Richie Torres, friend of the show, is considering a primary challenge and will most likely do it, if I had to bet. Go ahead. Do you have anything to add before we show this?
Okay. With this proviso, everything seems to be breaking in the Republicans' favor. New York State has a history of electing Republicans, governor and mayor in New York City.
They elect Republicans even sometimes when they're Democrats.
Yes, in the case of Eric Adams, our current mayor in New York. Obviously, there's the city that gave the nation Rudy Giuliani. You're welcome. Going all the way back to Nelson Rockefeller. I mean, this is the state from which you get the phrase Rockefeller Republicans. These kind of socially liberal, economically conservative Republicans. I have always said that New York is basically a pro-gay rights, pro-abortion rights Republican state.
Yeah.
If the Republicans changed their position on that, this would be a deep red state. It
Right.
is a red state if you get out of New York City. Very, very much like other places in the country, you have this deep blue urban center that has a larger population, so it's able to overwhelm the rest of the state in elections. But most of the rest of the state is red. You know, you got Buffalo there, you got, but that's about it. However, I will say this. Nate Silver just dropped an article where he had an interesting graphic. For the first time in 80 years, people associate the Democrats more with cultural issues than with economic issues. And while that is an amorphous, nebulous thing, of course, it's having a huge impact on the Democrats' performance, that they have developed politics around culture that most people, not just white people, most people find loathsome and off-putting. However, they don't like the Republicans' cultural positions. They just haven't had it shoved in their faces much because they have not had control over the cultural conversation in that way for a long time.
Right.
With the ascendancy of Trump, they're going to very quickly be reminded of what the cultural positions of those fruitcakes actually are. So I don't know. And in terms of seeing the Republicans now and imparting to the Republicans the defense and championing of the working class, unless they are going to do a real 180 on their views on economics, which there is no indication that they're going to, with people like Vivek and Elon leading the way. People are likely by 2026 to also be reminded that these people are not your friends. They're not interested in protecting unions. They're not interested in boosting wages. They're not interested in eliminating homelessness and high rents. So by 2026, things might look better for Hochul, actually.
It's very possible. I mean, you really don't know what these next 2 years are going to bring, and what
It's
the
easy to
prospects.
project onto people that don't have power what you
Yeah.
want to see.
Oh, sure, and that's why I wouldn't write her off. But I would also say she is going to face not necessarily a Republican challenger. She might get primaried with numbers that week. And this is another
that's
thing that she's trying to
possible
get
with
out
it.
in front of right now.
Yeah, that's possible with her because she has no talent.
Right.
So she is incredibly weak. I'm just saying the wave, the momentum that the Republicans have could very well be
Oh, that could always shift. Yeah.
Major reversal.
I mean, if past is prologue, it will shift, right? I mean, if history is a guide, it will shift. The Democrat brand is not as strong in New York as it has been in years past, as we know. The last governor's race was very, very close. This election was much closer than a lot of people thought it was going to be in New York State. And her favorability ratings are very low. And so when you add all those three things up, it does create opportunities for a Republican, but that might not be her biggest problem. So here's Richie Torres pretty much confirming that he's running. Now, he doesn't say that, but they never do say that until they actually come out and say it. But this is him leaving the door open, which tells you there's at least an 80% chance he plans on running in a Democratic primary against Kathy Hochul.
Critical of the governor because that you yourself want to run for governor and challenge Hochul. Is that something that you are seriously considering, a potential challenge against Governor Hochul?
I want to be clear. I did not submit the sworn affidavit. Right, it was Carlos Martinez.
I understand.
Who submitted
This is
the
some
sworn
other
affidavit,
bullshit
and I'm
that no one
simply
cares about.
responding to his sworn affidavit. To your question, look, I've declared that I'm running for re-election as a member of Congress, but I do reserve the right to change my mind. I will make a final decision as to the gubernatorial run in mid-2025, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, why wait? Why wait till 2025? If you're so critical of it now, you're not happy with the status quo, you're super critical of things happening on the city and state level, why not just say you want to do it now?
Why not give me the feather in my cap?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
No confidence in the leadership of Kathy Hochul. We need a new Democratic nominee. Whether I'm going to be the Democratic nominee remains to be seen. But one thing I do know for sure is that Kathy Hochul is setting up the Democratic Party to fail in November of 2026, and we need a new Democratic nominee.
Politico had an article looking at some of your past positions, right?
All right, so there you go. I mean, he's pretty much saying he's in. And this explains a lot of what I've been saying about Richie Torres since I've started talking about Richie Torres.
So you would think he hates Jose, but I think he loves him. Because that would be the biggest gift you could give to Jose Vega imaginable.
It would. But this is why I said all along, Richie Torres doesn't care about Israel. He doesn't even care about Jews. He doesn't care about anything. He cares about himself. And he knows that if he cozies up to these deep-pocketed Zionists in and around New York City, they are likely to fund a higher office campaign. And so if he runs, which it looks like he's going to, he is going to get a lot of support from those circles. It's going to be a very, very well-funded campaign. Now, is Richie Torres electable as governor of New York? Maybe. That really depends. That really depends on the Democrats' brand going into the season. I mean, he doesn't have the record of incumbency that Hochul has, which is, I would argue, a liability for her more than an asset. Can he compete statewide? That really becomes a straight red versus blue, up or down kind of thing. And I think his primary challenge could be very serious and very difficult for her to overcome because he's going to get a lot of money. Why do you think he cozies up to Israel so much? Because he knows that's where the money is in the party. And you're going into this season with a very weak incumbent who can potentially embarrass you, even in what figures to be a blue year. I think her record is so weak that becomes a real sweat job. And even if Hochul wins, you don't want to, as Democrats, be spending all of this energy and media time propping up a gubernatorial candidate in New York in what should be a blue wave year because it's zero sum. That's media you can't give your other candidates in swing states. Even if she wins by 2 points, you don't want to be sweating that out and burning all that energy in a New York race. So I think it's very possible he does run. And I think that explains why he is such a whore. Because he knows he wants to run for higher office, and he knows that if he takes certain stances on certain issues, that's big money when he goes to rise to the next level.
On the other side, although Hochul certainly has not in any way, shape, or form, to my knowledge, said one reasonable thing about Palestine or Israel.
Yeah, no, she's pretty bad.
She has not made that issue her brand the way Richie Torres has.
That's true.
So he is going to face something in New York State similar to what Harris faced nationwide, where you're going to have a lot of people on the left who are going to absolutely refuse to vote for him if he's the nominee.
Yeah, and you're going to get a lot of protests at campaign events as well. You can guarantee that.
Yes.
We can guarantee that. Jose,
we can personally guarantee it.
Yeah, exactly.
Please clap.